Hey there, story lovers. Welcome to Story-Driven English, your go-to spot for tales that spark your imagination and sneak in a little learning along the way. I'm so glad you're here, whether you're a long-time friend or a first-time explorer. Hitting that play button. Today, we're diving into a juicy, what-if imagined former U.S. President Donald Trump spilling the tea on secret Chinese official fortunes stashed in America. Did it happen? Could it have rocked China to its core? Buckle up, because we're about to unravel this mystery with a mix of facts, fun, and just the right dash of humor. Let's get started. Welcome aboard, and let's tell this story together. The Great Reveal. Did Trump drop a financial bombshell on China's elite? Chapter 1. The stage is set. Picture this. The United States and China, two global heavyweights, locked in a diplomatic dance that's more tango than waltz, full of dramatic spins, close calls, and the occasional stepped-on toe. It's a relationship where trust is a rare currency, and every move is scrutinized like a chess grandmaster's gambit. In this high-stakes game, nothing stirs the pot quite like whispers of financial transparency, or better yet, accusations of hidden riches. Imagine the buzz if one side decided to spill the tea on the other's elite, revealing secret stashes of wealth parked in foreign lands. It's the kind of plot twist that could make even the most stoic diplomat spill their coffee. Now, let's zoom in on a juicy rumor that's been floating around. Did former U.S. President Donald Trump, the real estate mogul turned political wildcard, actually pull back the curtain on the assets of Chinese officials stashed in the United States? And if he did, could this have been a sly, calculated jab, a critical hit, if you will, right into the heart of China's inner circle? Buckle up, because we're diving into this mystery with a mix of facts, a dash of speculation, and just enough humor to keep things from getting too serious. Chapter 2. The Trump card. Did he play it? Donald Trump was never one to shy away from a headline. During his presidency, he loved to tout his tough-on-China persona, think tariffs, trade wars, and fiery speeches that painted him as the sheriff riding into town to clean up the global saloon. So, the idea that he might have waved a dossier of Chinese officials' American assets like a victory flag doesn't sound entirely far-fetched. After all, this is the guy who once bragged about having the best tenants in the world in Trump Tower, including a Chinese state-owned bank that paid him millions in rent. Yes, irony is alive and well, but here's the kicker. There's no concrete evidence that Trump ever publicly disclosed a list of Chinese officials' U.S. assets. Sure, there were plenty of moments where he could have. Between 2017 and 2021, his administration slapped sanctions on Chinese entities, called out Beijing over Hong Kong, and even poked at the origins of a certain global pandemic. Yet, a grand reveal of hidden condos in Miami or bank accounts in New York. It didn't quite happen, at least not in the way conspiracy theorists might hope. What we do know is that Trump's businesses raked in at least $5.5 million from Chinese government-linked entities during his term, according to a 2024 House Democrats report. So, if anyone was spilling financial beans, it might have been more about his own ledger than China's elite. Still, let's entertain the what-if for a moment. Imagine Trump strutting onto a podium, golden hair glinting under the lights, declaring, "Folks, I've got the list, and you won't believe who owns half of Manhattan." The crowd would have gone wild, and Twitter, or X, as we call it now, would have exploded faster than you can say emoluments clause. But without that smoking gun, we're left sifting through the rumors and asking, could he have done it? Quietly, behind closed doors, as a geopolitical power play. Chapter 3. The critical hit. Hypothesis: if Trump had dropped such a bombshell, it'd be like tossing a lit firecracker into Beijing's tightly controlled political machine. In China, where the Communist Party keeps a hawkish eye on its officials, Corruption is a sensitive topic officially condemned, yet quietly pervasive. The government's anti-corruption campaigns, like Xi Jinping's Tigers and FLI's crackdown, have nabbed thousands of officials for stashing ill-gotten gains, often abroad. A 2014 estimate from China's central bank suggested that up to 18,000 officials had fled the country with billions in tow since the 1990s. So, if Trump had waived a detailed list of U.S.-based assets, say, a villa in California or a penthouse overlooking Central Park, it could have lit a match under the party's carefully curated image. The fallout? Picture the chaos, internal purges, panicked officials scrambling to explain their overseas nest eggs, and a public already skeptical of elite privilege losing what little faith they had left. It'd be a PR nightmare for Beijing, especially if the info came from their favorite frenemy across the Pacific. And let's not forget the optics. Trump, the self-proclaimed dealmaker, smirking as he hands China a diplomatic wedgie. It'd be less about the money itself and more about the embarrassment, a jab at China's soft underbelly of control and secrecy. But here's where the humor creeps in. China's propaganda machine would have had a field day spinning it. American lies. They'd cry, while quietly shipping a few officials off to early retirement in the countryside. Meanwhile, Trump might have tweeted something like, "Great job exposing the Chinese elite. Nobody does it better than me." Blissfully unaware that his own financial ties to China were raising eyebrows back home. Chapter 4. The reality check is, the grand reveal remains a tantalizing what if U.S. laws and intelligence capabilities could theoretically uncover such assets. Think Treasury Department probes or IRS digging, but releasing that info would be a legal and diplomatic minefield. The Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and sanctions regimes give the U.S. tools to track shady money, but they're more about freezing assets than plastering them on a billboard. Plus, as of March 28, 2025, happy current date, by the way, no declassified leaks or tell-all memoirs from Trump's inner circle have confirmed this tale. On the flip side, China's reaction to even the idea of such a move would have been swift. Social media platforms like Weibo would have been scrubbed of chatter faster than you can say, "Great firewall," and state media would have painted it as imperialist meddling. The average Chinese citizen might have shrugged. Cynicism about officials' wealth isn't new, but the party would have doubled down on its narrative of unity and strength. Chapter 5. The verdicto. Was there a critical hit on China's inner sanctum? Not quite. Trump might have loved the idea of swinging that bat, but the evidence suggests he didn't or couldn't pull it off. The U.S.-China relationship is messy enough without adding a financial expose to the mix, and both sides seem content to keep jabbing with tariffs and sound bites instead. Still, it's a delicious thought. Two larger-than-life players in a game of financial chicken, with the world munching popcorn on the sidelines. In the end, the real story might be simpler and funnier. Trump, the man who once called China's leaders smarter than ours, probably didn't need to expose their assets. He was too busy counting the rent checks from their banks, chuckling all the way to the penthouse. And China, they're likely still shaking their heads, wondering how they ended up with such a colorful sparring partner. Diplomatic drama, it seems, is the gift that keeps on giving. Chapter 6. The detective work sifting through the Clueso. We've got a tantalizing rumor on our hands. Trump, the brash dealmaker, supposedly outing the secret American fortunes of China's elite. But before we let our imaginations run wild with visions of penthouses and private jets, it's time to play detective. Did this actually happen, or are we chasing a geopolitical ghost story? I rolled up my sleeves, brewed a strong cup of coffee, and dove into the archive's credible news outlets, official records, the works to see if the evidence holds up Spoiler alert, it's a bit of a letdown. After scouring the likes of Reuters, the New York Times, and even the dusty corners of government press releases, there's no smoking gun. No triumphant Trump speech. No leaked spreadsheet titled China's Secret Stash in the USA. Nada. The closest we get are snippets about his administration's broader policies toward China, like the America First investment rules rolled out on February 21, 2025, hot off the press in this March 28, 2025 world. These policies tightened the screws on Chinese investments in key U.S. sectors, think tech, infrastructure, anything that screams strategic, and ramped up scrutiny of Chinese companies listed on American stock exchanges. There's even talk of revisiting audit agreements with China's financial watchdogs, like the PCAOB, to make sure the books aren't cooked. Tough stuff, sure, but it's all about corporate cash flows, not the personal piggy banks of Beijing's bigwigs. Chapter 7. The plot twists Trump's own payday. Here's where it gets juicy, though. While Trump didn't seem to be waving a list of Chinese officials' Malibu mansions, his own financial ties to China were making headlines. A 2024 report from House Democrats, those pesky sleuths at the Oversight Committee, dropped a bombshell. During his presidency, Trump's businesses pocketed at least $5.5 million from Chinese government entities and state-owned firms. The receipts came from Mazars USA LLC, his longtime accounting firm, and showed cash flowing into Trump Properties hotels in D.C. and Vegas, towers in New York, like a well-oiled ATM. The report waved a red flag, hinting that these payments might have danced a little too close to the Constitution's Foreign Emoluments Clause, which basically says, hey, Mr. President, no side hustles with foreign governments, okay? Cue the irony. Trump, the guy who loved to call out China's unfair moves, was cashing checks from their state-run playbook. Imagine the scene: Chinese diplomats sipping cocktails at the Trump International Hotel in D.C. while Trump tweets about making America great again. It's almost sitcom-worthy. But does this mean he turned around and spilled their secrets? Nope. The money trail points one way into his pockets, not out of theirs. Chapter 8. The legal lens. Could he have done it? Let's pause for a reality check. Could Trump have dug up dirt on Chinese officials' U.S. assets if he'd wanted to? Probably. The U.S. has a toolbox full of laws like the Patriot Act, Foreign Agents Registration Act, and Treasury's financial snooping powers that let it peek into foreign money flows. These rules are designed to catch money laundering, terrorism funding, or corrupt officials parking their loot in American real estate, a favorite pastime, apparently. If a Chinese official snapped up a $10 million condo in Miami, Uncle Sam could theoretically know about it, but knowing and telling are two different beasts. Releasing that info publicly would have been a legal tightrope. Think classified intel, diplomatic blowback, and a swarm of lawyers yelling privacy violation. Plus, Trump's style was more about big gestures than quiet leaks. If he'd had the goods, we'd have heard about it in an AM tweet, not a hushed briefing. The evidence or lack thereof suggests he didn't take that swing. Chapter 9. The misadventure of a misadventurizo. Where does this leave us? The grand Trump exposes China's elite saga seems to be more fiction than fact. The headlines. We do have focus on his administration's investment crackdowns and his own eyebrow-raising China cash-ins, not a dramatic unmasking of Beijing's power players. It's possible the rumor sprouted from a game of telephone. Someone heard Trump's tough on China, mixed it with officials hide money abroad, and voila, a conspiracy was born. But let's not let the truth ruin a good story. Imagine if he had done it. Picture the chaos in Beijing, officials sweating as their secret ski chalets in Colorado hit the news, Xi Jinping sternly demanding explanations, and state media spinning it as American fake news faster than you can say. Photoshop. Over in D.C., Trump would have grinned like a kid who just won at Monopoly, blissfully ignoring the irony of his own Chinese paydays. The world would have grabbed popcorn, and X would have lit up with memes. Think Trump Tower, now accepting yuan. Chapter 10. The next move. For now, though, the tale stays grounded. No asset lists, no critical hit on China's inner circle, just a messy, fascinating U.S.-China tango with plenty of side-eye. To get the full picture, we'd need to peek at China's hypothetical reaction. Spoiler, they wouldn't be thrilled, and ask the experts what such a move might have meant. But that's a chapter for another day. Until then, let's raise a glass to the diplomatic drama where the stakes are high, the facts are slippery, and the humor, thankfully, keeps us sane. The great reveal. Did Trump drop a financial bombshell on China's elite? Part 3, Chapter 11. The Dragon's Roar. What if China got mad? All right, let's crank up the imagination dial. Say Trump did pull off the ultimate mic drop moment, strutting out with a list of Chinese officials' secret American goodies: beachfront condos, Wall Street stocks, maybe even a yacht docked in Florida named the Forbidden Fortune. What would China do? Spoiler, they wouldn't send a thank you note. Based on how Beijing's handled past slights, think trade spats, sanctions, or that time someone dared mention Tibet a little too loudly, the reaction would be swift, loud, and oh, so dramatic. Let's break it down, shall we? First up, the official response. Picture a stern-faced spokesperson at a foreign ministry press conference, glasses fogging up from sheer indignation, jabbing a finger at the camera. The United States is meddling in our affairs, sabotaging our sacred bilateral harmony. State media like Xinhua and CCTV would kick into overdrive, blasting headlines about American lies and imperialist plots. They'd spin it faster than a fidget spinner on a sugar-high painting. The U.S. as the big bad wolf trying to huff and puff China's house down. Inside the Great Firewall, any whiff of this story would vanish from Weibo quicker than free samples at a Buffett censorship dialed to 11 to keep the masses from whispering about their leaders' overseas piggy banks. Chapter 12. Tit for tat diplomatic dodgeball. Next, the diplomatic counterpunch. China's not one to let a jab go unanswered, so they might dust off the old playbook, summon the U.S. ambassador for a stern talking to, send their own envoy home for consultations, or even kick out a few American diplomats just to make a point. You want to play hardball, Uncle Sam? Two can tango. They'd growl. And with the U.S.-China trade war already a simmering pot, economic retaliation could bubble up to maybe a fresh tariff on American soybeans or a random safety inspection of every Tesla rolling off a Shanghai dock. But here's the catch. China's leaders are sharp. They'd weigh the cost literally, because torching their own economy over a PR spat isn't exactly a winning move. Chapter 13. The homefront hustleman. While inside the Forbidden City's metaphorical walls, the Communist Party would be buzzing like a beehive poked with a stick. A leak like this, especially if it's true, could sting their carefully polished image of unity and righteousness. So they'd crank up the control knobs, more internet filters, tighter lips, and a few pointed reminders that dissent isn't on the menu. But here's the genius twist. They'd flip the script. Foreign enemies are attacking us. They'd rally, turning a potential embarrassment into a patriotic pep talk. We'll root out corruption and show the world our strength. Cue a fresh wave of anti-graft probes, some targeting the guilty, others just settling old scores, all while blaming the West for stirring the pot. It's a classic move. When in doubt, point outward. Chapter 14. Fortress China, locking the gates, and then there's the security card. If Trump's hypothetical reveal hit the airwaves, China might double down on national security faster. Then you can say, firewall upgrade, think stricter rules for foreign NGOs, exchange students, extra scrutiny on academic swaps, no more cultural exchange loopholes, and a digital lockdown that'd make even the sneakiest VPN tremble. We're protecting our sovereignty from nosy outsiders, they declare, while quietly tightening the screws on anyone who dared Google Trump's list. The funny part? Picture the propaganda posters. A heroic Xi Jinping standing tall against a cartoonish Uncle Sam waving a fake dossier, captioned, "Defending China's Honor." Meanwhile, the average Beijinger might just roll their eyes over their morning, kanji cynical about official wealth, but too smart to say it out loud. Chapter 15. The wild card factorno. How China actually reacts would depend on the details. When does this bombshell drop? Is it a vague rumor or a dossier with receipts, names, addresses, dollar amounts? If it's flimsy, they'd laugh it off. Nice try, America, next time bring proof. But if it's airtight, say, satellite pics of a Politburo members, Napa Valley Vineyard, it'd be a 5-alarm fire. The party's credibility could wobble, especially if the story goes viral before the censors catch it. Timing matters too. Caught mid-trade talks or during a domestic slump, it'd hit harder than a poorly timed your mom joke. Chapter 16. The ripple effect back in our real world, March 28, 2025. This is all just a fun what if Trump didn't spill the beans, at least not that we know, so China's not scrambling. But imagining their response shows the stakes. A move like that wouldn't just be a jab. It'd be a geopolitical haymaker. Beijing's pride, control, and global image would all take a hit, and they'd punch back with everything short of an actual missile. For now, though, the U.S.-China saga chugs along with its usual mix of tariffs and trash talk, no asset lists required. Still, it's a hoot to picture. Trump grinning like a Cheshire cat, China fuming like a dragon with a stubbed toe, and the rest of us scrolling X for the memes. Diplomatic drama, it's the soap opera that never ends, and we're all hooked. Chapter 17. The experts weigh in what could have been. Okay, so Trump didn't actually unveil a treasure map of Chinese officials' American loot, at least not that we've found in our detective escapades. But let's keep the what if party going. What would the fallout look like if he had? To get the scoop, I imaginary dialed some big-brained experts, think tank gurus, China watchers, and international relations buffs, and asked them to spill their tea on the political ripple effects. Spoiler, it's a doozy, with enough twists to rival a spy novel. But we'll keep it breezy. First off, the legitimacy hit. The Communist Party of China, CCP, loves to strut its stuff as the incorruptible guardian of the people, waving the anti-corruption flag like it's going for gold at the propaganda Olympics. We're clean as a whistle, they insist, while Xi Jinping's Tigers and FLI's campaign rounds up shady officials by the truckload. But imagine the scene if Trump flashed a list showing Politburo Pete's $20 million penthouse in Manhattan or Secretary Lee's secret vineyard in Napa. The average Chinese worker, scraping by on rice and dreams, might squint at that and think, wait a sec, where's my yacht? Experts say it could chip away at the party's halo, stirring up grumbles and maybe even a few protest chants, quiet ones, mind you, because nobody wants a one-way ticket to re-educationville. Chapter 18. The inner circle smuck down thin, there's the backstage drama. The CCP isn't exactly a big happy family, more like a reality show where everyone's secretly plotting to steal the crown. A leak like this could be pure gold for rival factions. Picture the whispers in Beijing's smoky backrooms. Oh, old Wang's got a beach house in Malibu. Time to settle some scores. The exposed officials might find themselves on the fast track to a voluntary retirement or a starring role in the next corruption purge. Experts nod to past crackdowns like when Xi took down bigwigs like Zhou Yongkang, saying this could spark a power grab free for all, with dossiers as the weapon of choice. It'd be less Cumbia and more Game of Thrones, minus the dragons, unless you count the party's fiery rhetoric. Chapter 19. The cleanup crew. On the flip side, the experts reckon this could light a fire under China's anti-corruption machine. With the world watching and folks at home muttering, the party might have to flex harder, think new rules forcing officials to fess up about their assets, or a shiny transparency campaign to prove they're serious. See? We're cleaning house. They'd crow while quietly shuffling a few folks off stage. It'd be a tightrope walk, though too much openness could backfire, exposing more dirt than they'd like. Imagine the headlines. Official asset declarations reveal 90% own private jets. Whoops. Chapter 20. The spin doctors strike back but don't count the CCP out. They're pros at dodging bullets. Experts point to their info control superpower, the great firewall, state media, and a knack for turning lemons into patriotic lemonade. If Trump's list hit the fan, they'd likely shout, "Fake news." The Americans are at it again. Xinhua might run a piece titled, "U.S. Fabricates Lies to Smear China's Honor," while Weibo gets scrubbed cleaner than a showroom floor. They'd frame it as a foreign attack, rallying the troops or citizens around the flag. We're under siege, comrades. Unite. It's a trick they've pulled before, and it's slicker than a magician's card shuffle. Chapter 21. The people's pulsewat about the public, though. Here's where it gets messy. Some Chinese folks might fume. Those greedy suits deserve the chop, and demand heads on platters, figuratively, of course. Others, steeped in years of U.S.-China tension, might squint suspiciously. Trump's behind this? Smells like a Yankee setup. Experts say the reaction would split like a bad haircut, part outrage, part skepticism, depending on how much proof Trump brought to the table. A blurry PDF wouldn't cut it, but bank statements with dollar signs? That'd be tougher to shrug off. Chapter 22. The Big Pictureso. Summing it up, the experts see a potential political earthquake cracks in the CCP's armor. Infighting policy pivots, but the damage hinges on execution. If the info's legit and spreads like wildfire, it's a gut punch to Beijing's cred. If it's flimsy or smothered by the party's spin machine, it's just another blip in the U.S.-China saga. Context is king. To drop this bomb during a trade war or a domestic slump, and it's chaos city. Otherwise, it's a storm in a teacup. For now, back in our real March 28, 2025. It's all hypothetical fun. Trump didn't spill, so the CCP's still humming along, and we're left musing over what could have been. Picture it, though, a trans-Pacific showdown, with experts scribbling notes, officials sweating, and the rest of us chuckling at the absurdity. Politics, it's the circus that never folds its tent. Chapter 23. Inside the Dragon's Lair. Assets, and Anti-Graft 101. So, we've been spinning a yarn about Trump hypothetically airing China's dirty laundry, secret U.S. assets of its bigwigs splashed across the headlines. But to really get the full picture of what that'd mean, we need to peek behind Beijing's curtain. What's the deal with how China keeps tabs on its officials' wallets, and how does it wrestle the corruption beast? Grab a snack, because we're diving into the nitty-gritty of the Middle Kingdom's internal playbook. Don't worry, I'll keep it fun. First up, the asset declaration game. China's got rules, serious ones laid down by the Central Committee of the Communist Party, CCP, and the State Council. If you're an official from deputy county level on up, you've got homework. Report your cash, your house, your stocks, your spouse's jewelry, even that trip to Macau you forgot to mention. It's a financial diary for the party's eyes, covering everything from real estate to insurance policies. The idea? Prove you're a loyal comrade who isn't secretly living like a Bond villain. They've even got a verification process random. Checks cranked up to 1 in 10, like a pop quiz you can't dodge. Mess up or forget your offshore bank account. Consequences await. Stats say over 9,100 officials got sidelined from promotions and 124,800 got slapped with penalties for fudging the numbers. Ouch, Chapter 24. The catch, it's all top secret. There's the kicker, though. This isn't a public tell-all. Unlike some countries where officials' asset lists are posted online for everyone to gawk at like a reality show called Who's Got the Most Yachts? China keeps it hush-hush. Those reports go straight to the party's inner sanctum, locked away tighter than a dragon's hoard. No citizen sleuths or nosy journalists get a peek. It's all about internal accountability, not public shaming. Imagine the CCP as a stern principal. We'll handle this in-house. Kids no need to air it on the playground. Chapter 25. The Tiger and Fly Whack-A-Marathon. There's the anti-corruption crusade, turbocharged under Xi Jinping. Picture him as the sheriff in town, rounding up tigers, big-shot officials and FLIs, lowly bureaucrats with a zero-tolerance swagger. Since he took the reins, millions have faced the music. Investigations, demotions, jail time, the works. The goal? Scrub the system clean, tighten party discipline, and convince folks that the CCPs still got their back. It's a blockbuster campaign. Think Law and Order, Beijing edition, and it's nabbed everyone from ex-generals to village clerks. Xi's message is clear. Step out of line, and you're toast. Chapter 26. Does it work? Kinda, sortas duties. Give this setup a thumbs up, with caveats. On the plus side, forcing officials to spill their financial beans cuts down on shady dealings. Harder to hide a bribe when the parties get your bank statements. It's like a built-in babysitter for grown-ups with sticky fingers. But here's the rub. Without independent watchdogs or public eyes on the prize, it's not foolproof. Critics whisper, who's watching the watchers? If the party's the only one checking the homework, a crafty tiger might still slip through the cracks, especially if they've got friends in high places. More transparency. Sure, it'd help, but don't hold your breath. Openness isn't exactly Beijing's vibe. Chapter 27. The outside leak factor. No. Loop back to our Trump fantasy. China's got this internal machine humming declarations, crackdowns, the whole shebang. But if an outsider like the U.S. blasted open the vault, showing off what the party's been keeping under wraps, hoo boy, it'd be like someone crashing your family reunion with a megaphone, shouting, "Guess who's got a secret mansion?" The contrast would sting. All that anti-corruption chest-thumping, yet here's proof of hidden riches. It'd shine a spotlight on the gaps. Why aren't these assets on the books? Who dropped the ball? Suddenly, the parties we've got. This narrative looks shakier than a house of cards in a windstorm. Chapter 28. The bigger picturious of our real world. March 28th, 2025. This is all hypothetical. No Trump bombshell. No exposed villas. China's system chugs along, a mix of tight rules and tighter lips. They've made strides. Fewer tigers roaring free. More FLIs swatted, but the opacity leaves room for doubt. An external reveal could jolt things, forcing a reckoning or at least a better poker face. For now, though, it's business as usual. The party polices itself. The public shrugs, and we're left chuckling at the what-ifs. Imagine the scene if it did happen. She frowning at a report, officials scrambling to explain their Miami condos, and Trump tweeting, "Told ya nobody hides better than me." It'd be chaos, comedy, and a crash course in geopolitics all rolled into one. Until then, China's internal saga and our story keeps humming, one secretive step at a time. Chapter 29. The peoples whisper touchy topics and tangled leaflets zoom into the streets of China, or at least the digital ones where the chatter about officials and their mysterious fortunes is like a pot of tea that's always simmering, ready to boil over. Money and power? It's the kind of combo that gets folks talking, even in a place where the great firewall keeps a lid on loose lips. The wealth of officials, especially when it smells fishy, is a hot potato in Chinese society, and boy, does it get people steamed. Despite the party's iron grip on info, the public's got a nose for scandal. When a bigwig gets caught with a mansion or a mistress or both, it's like tossing a match into dry grass, sparks fly. A U.S. intelligence report once dished that corruption in China often comes gift wrapped as bribes or cushy favors, with some officials and their families stacking cash like they're playing Monopoly with real money. The catch? No one's allowed to peek at the scorecards. With transparency off the table and censorship on high, digging into these riches is like trying to solve a puzzle blindfolded. Still, studies whisper that a hefty chunk of officials might be pocketing way more than their paychecks allow, sometimes way more. We're talking buy a private island more. Chapter 30. Weibo woes grumbling in the shadow shop over to Weibo, China's equivalent, and you'll catch the vibe. People aren't exactly naming names that'd be a one-way ticket to a chat with the authorities, but the grumbles are loud. Posts about income gaps, sky-high salaries in cushy sectors, and how do they afford that? Rants bubble up like soda in a shaken can. It's not always about officials' assets, outright too risky, but the subtext screams suspicion. Some folks live better than emperors while we're stuck with rice and rent, one user might hint, before the censors swoop in like digital ninjas. The takeaway? There's a simmering unease about wealth that doesn't add up, and it's as touchy as a porcupine in a balloon shop. Chapter 31. The party's play slogans and smackdowns. Beijing knows this hot potato's sizzling. They've rolled out feel-good lines like common prosperity. To cool things down, think of it as a PR hug for a grumpy nation. We're all in this together. They cheer, while Xi's anti-corruption posse rounds up tigers and FLIs to show they mean business. It's a double whammy. Soothe the masses and flex some muscle. The public wants a cleaner government, and the party's happy to oblige, at least on the surface. But that pays 42 Kai lack of transparency in asset declarations. It's the elephant in the room, trunk and all. Without letting folks see the books, the trust us, we're honest, lines start sounding like a used car salesman's pitch. Chapter 32. The Trump twist stirring the pot. No, let's toss our what if back into the mix. Imagine Trump swaggering in, waving a list of Chinese officials' U.S. goodies, condos, cash, maybe a Tesla or two. For a public already side-eyeing their leaders' lifestyles, it'd be like handing them a megaphone and a spotlight. See? We knew they were hiding something. They'd cry, clutching the proof they've long suspected. It'd turn whispers into roars, piling pressure on the party to swing the anti-corruption axe harder, or at least fake it better. Picture the headlines: Beijing vows crackdown after U.S. leak, followed by a few officials retiring to the countryside pronto. Chapter 33. The flip side: patriotism vs. pitchforks. But hold up, it's not a straight shot to outrage. The public's a mixed bag. Some might grab pitchforks, demanding heads roll, lock up the crooks. Others, steeped in U.S.-China rivalry, might squint at Trump's list and mutter, "Nice try. America trying to make us look bad again." National pride's a powerful spice. It can turn anger into defiance faster than you can say. Foreign interference, experts reckon the reaction would hinge on the details. Solid evidence might tip the scales to fury, while a shaky rumor could just fuel the "it's a Yankee trick" camp. Either way, Weibo would be a battlefield censors vs. Commenters. Round 1, Fight. Chapter 34. The simmering stew back in our real March 28, 2025. No Trump leak means no public meltdown yet. China's social pot keeps bubbling, though, with folks eyeing the rich and powerful through a haze of doubt. The party's juggling act crackdowns, slogans, secrecy keeps the lid on, but it's a wobbly fit. An outside bombshell could blow it sky high, giving voice to the grumbles and shaking the trust tree. For now, it's all ifs and maybes. But the sensitivity's real wealthy officials are the third rail of Chinese chatter, and everyone's tiptoeing around it. Chapter 35. The bigger puzzle: what else is cooking in China? So far, we've been spinning a wild tale about Trump hypothetically spilling the beans on Chinese officials' secret U.S. fortunes, condos, cash, the works. But let's zoom out for a sec. China's political kitchen isn't just simmering over one hot dish. It's a full-on buffet of ingredients, some homegrown, some imported. To figure out how big a splash our imaginary leak would make, we've got to peek at the whole menu, because in Beijing, it's never just about one scandal. Grab a seat. This is gonna get tasty. Chapter 36. The homefront headache is first, the domestic specials. The economy's the head chef here, and lately it's been serving up some lukewarm plates. Growth slowing, think turtle pace instead of dragon sprint, and the real estate bubbles wobbling like a Jenga tower after too many drinks. Pile on public debt and job woes, and you've got a recipe for grumbly tummies. People start asking, "Where's my slice of the pie?" And the party doesn't love that question. Then there's the side dishes: smoggy skies choking cities, a rich-poor gap wider than the Great Wall, and pockets of folks muttering about life's unfairness. Add in spicy issues like ethnic minority tensions and human rights gripes, and you've got a stew that could bubble over if the heat's too high. Oh, and don't forget the leadership drama. Think of it as the seasoning. Xi Jinping's been consolidating power like a master chef perfecting his sauce, with the anti-corruption crackdown doubling as a handy whisk to stir out rivals. It's all about keeping the CCP's kitchen running smooth, but every chef knows too much stirring can spill the pot. Chapter 37. The foreign flavor, no, the international garnish. China's not dining alone Uncle Sam's at the table, and they're not exactly sharing the breadsticks. U.S.-China relations are a roller coaster of trade spats, tech tussles, and "my Navy's bigger than yours" flexing in the Asia-Pacific. It's a clash of vibes to democracy vs. one-party rule, Hollywood vs. state TV. The strategic showdown spans everything from 5 grams to fighter jets, and every move's a chess play. When Trump was in the White House, he loved tossing curveballs, tariffs. Here, tweets they're keeping Beijing on its toes. It's less a dance and more a dodgeball match, with both sides lobbing hard. Chapter 38. Timing is everything, so where does our Trump leaks the assets fantasy fit in this feast? Experts say it's all about the timing, like serving dessert during a food fight. Drop that bombshell when the economy's tanking, jobs are scarce, or the air's thick enough to chew, and it's a match on dry tinder. Picture it. Folks already mad about rent see proof their leaders are living large in la cue the pitchforks, or at least some very loud Weibo rants. Toss in a fresh U.S. trade jab or a Tibet flare-up, and the party's juggling more balls than a circus clown. It'd amplify the chaos, turning a PR hiccup into a political heartburn, but flip the script. If the economy's humming, jobs are steady, and she's got the narrative on lockdown, the leak might just fizzle. Nice try, Trump, they'd smirk, sweeping it under the rug with a slick foreign plot spin. The censors would work overtime, the public might yawn, and it'd be yesterday's news faster than you can say. Next tariff, context is the secret sauce, too much heat, and it's a meltdown. Just right, and it's a shrug. Chapter 39, the balancing act back in our real March 28, 2025. There's no leak to test this theory. Trump's keeping mum, and China's juggling its usual load. The economy's a worry, the U.S. is a thorn, and the party's stirring the pot with one hand while holding the lid with the other. An asset reveal would have been a wild card, its impact riding on whatever else is simmering. A bad day? Disaster. A good day? Just another annoyance to swat away. Imagine it, though. Trump grinning as he drops the list, China's leaders scrambling while the stock market dips and Weibo lights up, and the world watching like it's the season finale of geopolitical kitchen nightmares. For now, it's all what-ifs, a tasty thought experiment in a saga that's already spicy enough. The stove's on, the ingredients are simmering, and we're just here, forks ready, waiting for the next course. Chapter 40, the instability equation cracks or just creaks. All right, we've been cooking up a storm with this what-if scenario. Trump waving a list of Chinese officials' secret U.S. treasures like a magician pulling rabbits out of a hat. But now it's time to crunch the numbers figuratively. Of course, I'm no math whiz. Could this imaginary leak crack open the CCP's shiny armor, sparking division or chaos inside China's political fortress? It's a tricky puzzle, so let's piece it together with a grin and a wink. Chapter 41. The chaos catalyst. On one hand, this could be a real party pooper for the party. We've already mused how proof of officials living it up, think penthouses, and private jets might dent the CCP's we're pure as snow vibe. The public, already squinting at the rich-poor gap, might start muttering louder, wise Comrade Zhang sipping champagne in Miami while I'm rationing rice. That kind of heat could force the party to swing into action, more crackdowns, more "we're on it" speeches. And if Trump's list fingered players from rival factions because every dynasty's got its cliques, it'd be like tossing a live grenade into a family feud. Picture the backroom bickering. Your guys got a yacht? Well, your guys got a villa. It could turn the Politburo into a soap opera, complete with power grabs and dramatic exits. Chapter 42. The control conundrum. But hold your horses. The CCP's no rookie at dodging curveballs. They've got a control toolkit that'd make a dictator blush. Censors who can vanish a story faster than you can say. 404. A media machine that spins gold from straw, and a knack for squashing dissent before it grows legs. If Trump dropped that bombshell, they'd likely slam the info breaks. Weibo scrubbed. Headlines were written, dissenters invited, for tea with the authorities. Then comes the spin. This is an American plot to destabilize us. They'd bellow, waving the patriotism flag like it's the Olympics opening ceremony. The public might buy it, or at least half of them, because who doesn't love a good us vs. them storyline? Chapter 43. Protests or just pouts? Mass protests? Pitchforks in the streets? Don't bet on it, at least not right away. China's security game is tighter than a drum, with cameras on every corner and a don't try it vibe that keeps most folks in line. A leak might spark some grumbling, maybe a few brave souls venting online before the banhammer drops. But a full-blown uprising? No, not with Big Brother watching. Long term, though, that's trickier. If the anger simmers piling up with economic woes or smoggy days, it could chip away at the party's fan base, like a slow leak in a tire. No revolution, just a growing toward the powers that be. Chapter 44. The bigger basket, there's the thing. Corruption's just one egg in China's political basket. The economy's wobbles, social gripes, and Xi's leadership juggling. Act all way in. A Trump leak could jostle the mix, sure adding fuel to the fire if times are tough, or just a pesky fly to swat if things are rosy. But on its own, it's not the magic bullet to topple the table. Imagine it like a spicy topping. It'd sting, maybe shake things up, but the meal keeps cooking unless the whole kitchen's already a mess. The CCP's got a knack for keeping the lid on, and they'd lean hard on that skill here. Chapter 45. The verdict sort of so. As of our real March 28, 2025, with no Trump expos in sight, we're left guessing. Could it split the party or spark chaos? Maybe it'd poke some sore spots, fan some flames. But the CCP's control freak streak and spin mastery would likely keep it from going full bonfire. Short term, it's a hiccup. Long term, a slow burn nothing game changing unless the stars and the economy align just wrong. It's a cool-da wool-da tease, not a done deal. Picture the scene if it did happen. Trump smirking, officials squabbling, censors racing. And the public caught between lock 'em up and it's a U.S. trick. It'd be a political circus, a masterclass in damage control, and a front row seat to China's tightrope walk, all with us munching popcorn, wondering who blinks first. For now, the tent's still up, the show goes on, and we're just here. For the next act, Chapter 46, the final tally critical hit, or just a scratch. Here we are, folks, at the end of our wild ride through What If land. After digging through news, expert chatter, and China's political cookbook, it's time to settle the score. Did Trump ever unleash a financial expose on Chinese officials' U.S. stash? And if he had, would it have been the critical hit? To Beijing's inner sanctum, we've been hyping up. Let's tie this up with a bow and maybe a chuckle or two. The verdict's in, no dice. As of March 28, 2025, there's no smoking and no Trump presser waving a list of Beijing bigwigs' Miami condos or Wall Street loot. What we've got, instead, is a paper trail of U.S. investment policies tweaking. China's nose and some spicy reports about Trump's own businesses cashing Chinese checks $5 million worth, if you're counting. So, the did he? Question's a bust. Our critical hit, fantasy? Built on quicksand. But oh, the fun we've had imagining it. Chapter 47. The what-if wrap-up still. Let's savor the hypothetical one last time. If Trump had dropped. That bombs get ready for the pun hell. It'd be a geopolitical firecracker. Picture the fallout. The CCPs were spotless badge tarnished, the public side-eyeing their leaders' secret fortunes, and factional knives sharpening in Beijing's backrooms. It'd crank up the anti-corruption heat, and maybe even rile up the Weibo warriors proof at last for their, we knew it, hunches. A juicy reveal like that could nick the party's legitimacy, stir some drama, and make Xi's PR team sweat bullets, but it's a big. But the CCP's a fortress with a moat of control. They'd hit back hard. Censors on overdrive. State? Media shouting, U.S. lies. From the rooftops and security tighter than a miser's wallet. They might even flip it into a rally cry. Foreign FOs attack us, stand tall, comrades. Protests? Unlikely with that iron grip. Instability? Maybe a wobble, not a crash. It'd sting sure, but a knockout punch. Nah, the parties too. Good at dodging haymakers, Chapter 48. The X Factor dance. How big the splash would be depends on the recipe. Solid proof bank slips, not rumors. How far it spreads before the censors pounce. And what else is simmering? Economic hiccups, U.S. tensions, or a grumpy populace. Bad timing like during a market dip or trade war flare-up, and it's a gut punch. Smooth sailing. Just a hiccup they'd shrug off with a nice try. Trump, in today's U.S.-China sparring match, it'd look like a hostile jab cue. The diplomatic dodgeball, but not a game changer unless the stars align just so. Chapter 49. The last lasso. No Trump reveal, no critical hit, just a fascinating peek into China's sensitive spots and the U.S.-China tango. The saga of officials' wealth shows how tricky transparency is in Beijing's playbook and how info's a weapon in global games. It's a could have been, with teeth enough to rattle cages but not topple thrones tied to a web of politics, society, and cash flow. We've laughed, we've mused, and we've dodged a few censors ourselves. Kidding, I'm AI, not in China. Imagine the grand finale if it had happened. Trump smirking like a cat with cream, China's spin machine whirring, and us scrolling X for the memes. For now, it's a tale that didn't tell. But oh, what a story it could have been. A diplomatic soap opera with a side of popcorn. The curtain's down, the lights are up, and we're left grinning at the might have beens. And there you have it, folks, the wild tale of what if Trump had dropped a financial bombshell on China's elite. From secret condos to Beijing's spin machine, we've laughed, we've mused, and we've unraveled a story that's as twisty as a dragon's tail. No real reveal happened, but wasn't it fun to imagine the chaos? Thanks for joining us on this geopolitical joyride here at Story Driven English, where we turn big ideas into stories you can't stop listening to. If you enjoyed this adventure, smash that like button. It's the easiest way to tell us we're doing something right. Share this video with your friends who love a good story or a juicy what if. Drop a comment below. Would you have cheered for Trump's leak? Or do you think China would have dodged the bullet? We read every single one. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a story. We've got more tales cooking, and we'd love to have you along for the ride. See you in the next one. Stay curious and keep learning with Story Driven English. Peace out.